Apologies for the slight delay. Selected the wrong account for the stream.
No worries. You gave me some time to do something I was trying to do.
Because we make such a big deal of it, was that they were meeting, they weren't public, they weren't. Public, you know. Well,
That's funny.
Okay, we are ready to go.
Drop it.
All right. Brendan. And welcome to the June 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Transportation Committee. My name is Jason Fromowitz and I am the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Berth. Meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed when the time the meeting is called to order until the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. There is time following the committee's discussion. We will field questions from the public. I believe Jerry volunteered if he's still willing to take
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I was your fallback.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right, very good. Now we will take attendance. Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Okay, committee members, I will call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce that there is quorum. Pete Isman,
Present.
Rob Friedman,
Present.
Jason Fromowitz,
Present?
Marion Rowe,
Present.
Larry Shire is not with us tonight. Gabe Terzo,
Present.
Jerry Weinstein,
Present.
and I do not see Hader Zaidi, but we do have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. First, the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to the agenda, please raise your hand. Alrighty, seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Now moving on to the minutes. The minutes from May 6th were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adoption of the minutes, please raise your hand.
They were great minutes.
Wonderful minutes.
Best writing I've ever seen.
All right, seeing no objection and only compliments. The minutes from May 6th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the Series 6 website. All right, in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to technical difficulties you are experiencing. Or state in writing information like an email address that was already stated on the record during the meeting. Starting off with our agenda, we have plans from DTC on 43rd Street, Shared Street.
Yes, hi, this is Diana. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, share. Can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Okay, hello everybody, and thanks for joining. My name is Diana Cahill, and I'm the Design Team Project Manager at AKRF Engineers. I'm here to present 43rd Street Shared Street project to you tonight. The presentation should last about 10 minutes, and we'd appreciate receiving feedback from the community board so we can proceed with the design, taking into account your interests. Please note that this project is in the preliminary design phase. Coordination with agencies is ongoing, and this project is a challenging site with dense underground utilities and we are continuing to coordinate bollard placement and utility relocations. So tonight we're going to review the project location, funding, background, activity to date, the schedule, existing conditions, proposed improvements, and community impacts during construction. The project is located on Lexington Avenue between East 43rd Street and East 44th Street, and also on East 43rd Street between Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenues, including the intersections of East 43rd Street and 3rd Avenue, and the intersection of East 44th Street and Lexington Avenue. This project is a city-funded design bid build project, and it includes New York City DEP utility work funding. The project originated and was funded as part of a Greater East Midtown rezoning agreement. The project partner is Grand Central Partnership. And as seen in the photo on the left, the interim condition was installed as part of a 2018 DOT in-house project. The goals of the project are to enhance public spaces and permanent materials, improve pedestrian safety at Lexington Avenue and Grand Central Terminal, facilitate property access and loading needs, and add furnishings and plantings to enliven the corridor. The project was registered in December of 2018 and was put on pause twice. The first time for the Chrysler ownership change, and the second during the COVID emergency. There was a delay in receiving force account approvals to proceed with our geotechnical borings. And we have been ongoing coordinating with private utilities, the MTA, NYPD Counterterrorism, FDNY, Grand Central Partnership, New York City DOT, and the Hyatt redevelopment team. We are continuing to coordinate our security measures layout with the City DOT, NYPD Counterterrorism, and Grand Central Partnership. This past February, we did a mass mailing 1 distribution, and today we are at the Community Board 6 meeting. We anticipate preliminary PDC submission in the fall of 24 and final PDC submission in the spring of 25. We anticipate design completion in the winter of 25 and construction start in the fall of 26. We anticipate a 3-year construction duration. Now to review the existing conditions, just to orient you where we are. This is an image of East 44th Street and Lexington Avenue, looking north. This top image is Grand Central Terminal on the right and Lexington Avenue at East 43rd Street. The bottom image is Lexington Avenue and East 43rd Street, looking east. The top image here is East 43rd Street and 3rd Avenue looking west. And the bottom image is 3rd Avenue at East 43rd Street looking east. Now to review our proposed improvements. So we'll start at Lexington Avenue and East 44th Street, where we've proposed a 10-foot sidewalk extension that begins at East 44th Street and continues on Lexington Avenue down past East 43rd Street. On the left, you'll see the 10-foot sidewalk extension that continues from what we just were looking at on 44th Street and meets existing just past East 43rd Street. In the center of the image is a red T, which is a raised T intersection. A raised T intersection provides priority to pedestrians and allows pedestrians to cross the street at the same elevation as the sidewalk. The blue dots that you see surrounding the raised T indicate the proposed security bollards. And at the raised T on East 43rd Street, we've proposed 2 8-foot sidewalk bump outs. After the raised T, the roadway transitions back to the existing curb line and allows for 2 8-foot parking lanes. On the east side of East 43rd Street and 3rd Avenue, there's also an 8-foot sidewalk bump out proposed, along with concrete planters on the bump outs. At 3rd Avenue and 43rd Street, the red shape in the middle indicates a raised crosswalk. And on the east side of 3rd Avenue and East 43rd Street, curb extensions are also proposed. These are typical sections on Lexington Avenue. The left side is with the raised intersection and the right is without. And these are typical sections on 43rd Street. The left section is with the raised intersection and the right is without. In addition to the improvements we just reviewed, we are also replacing a 12-inch water main and a 20-inch water main. We are repairing existing sewers interior lining and catch basin replacement with new connections to existing sewer manholes. We're also improving electrical, gas main, and telecommunications utility work as needed. The anticipated community impacts during construction include roadway and sidewalk closures, temporary relocation of the Access-a-Ride bus stop, parking restrictions, DEP noise code regulations, tree pruning and removal and replacement of trees as needed, rodent control measures, and ongoing coordination with adjacent construction projects. And that is it.
All right, thank you very much. I imagine we will have some questions. Let's see that, Frank.
Hey, thank you. Great presentation. Just a couple of quick questions. So on Lexington, you're going to be widening the sidewalk by 10 feet on both sides, east and west, is what I understood, right there?
So there is a 10-foot sidewalk extension just on this side, on the Grand Central side, that starts right here before 43rd Street and continues up to 44th Street.
Oh, okay. So not the other side. Got
Not
it.
the other side.
And the second question is, a lot of times that's a place for placard abuse. It's a notorious location right there. What steps could you do design-wise to prevent placard abuse?
Can you define placard abuse? I'm not that familiar with that.
Well, there's always kind of city agencies that have placards and they can park in extra locations, but they sometimes abuse them and park in illegal locations. And that's a really common location for it. So,
Well, I understand what you, so today there are temporary bollards out there and it is very easy for police to park beyond those. This would be, a built out scenario. There's not going to be room. This is, right next to a bus lane. There's no room for parking there.
Is it still going to be temporary materials like?
No, this is a permanent build out.
So this would be like a raised full sidewalk.
Exactly.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a few. Nobody else does. Let me go with me. I see the comments in the public. We'll go back to you in a moment. Question on the positioning of the bollards. So that's the red lines there. Why place those? Why not protect the sidewalks and pedestrians? If we're building out bollards, it seems like they could serve two purposes and they're not. Is there any reason why they're so far offset from the curb?
So the red dot, I mean, the blue dots indicate the proposed bollards, and they are located just beyond the raised T intersection.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
misunderstood that.
Okay, yeah, and because the raised intersection is at the same elevation as the sidewalk, you need to protect, around the raised T. That's why they're
Oh, okay.
located there, yeah.
Got it. Okay, that's addresses what I was concerned about. Okay, great. And then on terms of the crosswalk at East 43rd Street and Third Avenue. Yes, how come there, I love the raised crosswalk. Why no raised crosswalk on the east side at that intersection if we're looking at raised crosswalks?
I believe it has to do more with the pedestrian volumes here. There's more volume at Third and 43rd, leaving the corridor that we were just looking at. And less of a need for it at the other corner.
Okay, I would potentially like to see us ask for one that by the other location. I think if we're
Okay,
working to make changes to the roadway and install raised crosswalks, I think let's take advantage of that opportunity here while we're doing the work. We can discuss that in a moment as we talk about a resolution. Any other questions from the committee? Otherwise, I see the public's had a couple. Michael, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to know why there aren't why there isn't a raised intersection at 41st Street and Third Avenue, and why all the intersections aren't going to be raised. Like, I think that raised intersections might be good to have at all of them, and I think it's also important in the sense that the raised intersections make sure that, like, people don't drive their cars and ride their bicycles on the sidewalk. And I think the raised intersections are an improvement, although I think they needs to be more of a reminder of that.
So the question was, just to repeat in case the audio didn't come out well, why there's not more raised crosswalks raised intersections throughout the whole project area? Why is it limited to this single T intersection here?
well, this project is just focused on this major intersection, and it is a traffic calming sort, and same thing with raised crosswalk. They serve multiple purposes, but I can't speak to the plans for the city to install them in other intersections.
But
I just want to second actually your comment about the raised crosswalk on the other side of the intersection because there was a major bus stop there. That's where the uptown bus stop for limited local buses on Third Avenue is. So it is actually a pretty well used corner, at least in my experience. So I think it would be prudent to raise that too, because there also are a lot of people who use that intersection just to get to the bus. Other question I have too, because I saw that on Lexington Avenue end. That a lot of that was raised on 43rd, but the only bit of 43rd that's raised on Third Avenue end is just that crosswalk. And so I'm actually wondering why more of 43rd Street itself beyond the crosswalk isn't also raised, because there you see there's a bit of the street that would have no parking at all under this plan.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
so
don't think I understood the question.
yeah, I'll repeat. So yeah, the main question is why isn't any of well, first off, there was expression of support for the raised crosswalk on the east side of 43rd Street, and then there was a question around why there's not raised.
So why is
pavement.
there more 43rd Street raised?
Yeah, well, yeah. Why isn't there more sidewalk level infrastructure on the 43rd Street side?
Why isn't the
Or
more of
43rd Street?
43rd?
Yeah,
I can tell you why. We had designed many scenarios to extend the T. We have major underground utilities here with the subway and a lot of obstructions to putting bollard foundations in. So when you do have pedestrians crossing at the same elevation as the sidewalk, you do need to install security so vehicles don't, run off to delineate where the roadway is from where pedestrians should be. So we are limited here to some of the conflicts that were pretty significant in the corridor.
I've been told to come forward for the sake of the microphone. No, I'm actually talking about the Third Avenue end mainly. Again,
Okay.
yeah, I'm just wondering why, like, the bit where there's no parking from like the midpoint of 43rd to the raised crosswalk, and why that isn't also raised to be at sidewalk level.
Okay, so to give pedestrians priority of leaving Grand Central and, the pedestrian volumes that are counted, I believe the thought was this was the focus to get people out and disperse. And I'm not trying to minimize that people aren't here as well. But the focus was here to provide, priority to the pedestrians leaving Grand Central.
Is there a budget issue? It seems there's a high amount of pedestrian volume in the entire area. If there's no parking.
No. So you're saying why not raise this as well?
Yes.
Okay, well, so then we'd also have to provide security measures and bollards around this whole area. And again, we have significant conflicts with Waltz and a lot of utilities in the area.
Well, so is it a question about like similar to the raised crosswalk, or like extending a sidewalk extension in the same manner?
Honestly, we're just seeing the roadway just raised up, like seeing like the roadway raised up the sidewalk level. So I suppose, yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, thank you. Did you push?
Yeah, real quick, and this is for Larry.
Yeah, I was
is there-
gonna raise Larry's point as well. Go ahead.
Is there any plan in the design for a bus stop at 44th and Lex is?
40, right now it's at 44th and Lex. A member of our committee who's not here tonight is generally concerned with the fact that there's no bus stop immediately outside of Grand Central, and instead requires pedestrians to cross the street on Lex. Across 42nd to the bus stop. Yeah, was there any consideration given to making space for a bus stop on Lex in front of Grand Central?
I haven't coordinated with, I haven't heard anything about adding a bus stop at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Can we bring forward a resolution to discuss?
There's one more question from the public.
Oh,
if
I'm
you don't
sorry,
mind.
please, I didn't say the question.
I'm more than happy to.
This is my first time coming, so.
Please welcome.
This is
You want to come up so that they can?
fascinating to watch this. I live in a very residential area, so I'm all for pedestrian plazas, more greenery. I live right off the East Midtown Greenery. So that was an amazing addition to our neighborhood, if you guys are involved in that. But when you write proposed improvements on like what is one of the busier avenues in Manhattan, right in front of Grand Central, what are you trying to improve in a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of residential people living? It's mainly businesses or people getting into Grand Central. Why do you have this idea of improving this with, what I would see would be consequential to all that we hear for traffic, taxis, and everybody trying to get into Grand Central, where you're going to create a lot of disruption on all the streets leading up to this little project? That's just kind of my uninformed question.
So what was the main, I appreciate the.
Yes, why this street, which is mainly a commercial thoroughfare with only offices, no residents, why are we putting in a pedestrian plaza in one of the busiest train stops on the planet?
There's a lot of pedestrian, like you said.
So I can take that question. So this isn't a pedestrian plaza. This is a sidewalk expansion to accommodate, like you said, some of the busiest pedestrian volumes in the city. So we're just widening sidewalks and improving pedestrian priority. So this is providing for those commuters who are coming out of Grand Central in incredible volumes and walking to their final destinations, while accommodating local access to some of the largest commercial buildings in the city.
So the response is that people believe that they're gonna come out of Grand Central and just plop down in front of that building or hang out before they go onto their train. That's the thought.
No, the majority of the saw is actually proposing to improve pedestrian circulation.
So
As part of the
walking,
project.
moving through the area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
One second, because I have a Q&A. I actually got it.
Oh, I was gonna say that, you know, the traffic volumes and pedestrianization on, for example, 43rd Street has been studied, and it's about 18 to 1 people walking to cars. I mean, it's extremely busy pedestrian area.
Yeah, and if you look at the space allocation, you know, there's a lot of roadway for vehicles, a lot of pedestrians, still makes up a fairly small amount of the footprint of the space that's allocated to pedestrians as opposed to vehicles. So I don't. We have one question from the public in the Q&A here. Is there any consideration for making 43rd Street between 3rd and Lexington pedestrian and delivery vehicles only with no parking? So I guess that would be yeah, I'll leave the question.
Yeah, this time, we're not considering full pedestrianization, because we do have to accommodate a lot of local access needs. This is the loading docks for the Chrysler Building, as well as some other large, commercial corridors. There's nothing to necessarily prevent that in the future, with some managed access. But at this time, this project's really just improving pedestrian throughput, while accommodating those access needs.
And then follow-up question there is, will there still be truck unloading on 43rd Street with this design?
Correct. All the regulations will stay the same as commercial loading.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
So, real quick,
Yes.
175 Park, if that demolition stops and that project, if that demolition starts and that project starts, does that affect your timeline?
No, we have, well, we are not scheduled to, timeline to interfere with each other, and we're actually not physically interfering with each other. There's just one staging area, I believe, closer to 42nd Street where they might place a crane. But other than that, it's not within our project area.
All right, so if I may bring forward a resolution for us to discuss.
To support
This project.
okay, so yeah, let's move on to discuss the resolution. I would propose we include an ask to raise the sidewalk on the east side of 43rd Street and Lex. Any other specifics that we would want to see on there of changes or asks? Additions, removals?
You're saying another raised intersection around here?
On the east side.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, to put that into, I propose that we would pass a resolution in support of this design, with the request of an addition to add a raised crosswalk there.
A raised crosswalk here, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other amendments that we would want to include here?
Proxy Larry. That's
Do you have anything you'd want to specifically? Yeah, I mean, so I'll try to proxy Larry to some extent, although I have reservations with what Larry would have proposed. So Larry would have wanted us to ask for a bus stop on probably the corner of 42nd and Lex. I appreciate his desire for a bus stop, but I do think it's problematic to not have a bus stop in front of, to require passengers transferring to the bus to have to cross the street to 42nd Street. That said, it's a very busy area, and I like very much the idea of the extended sidewalk instead of or in place of where the bus stop could possibly go. So I personally would not advocate for that. I'm interested in if anybody else on the committee would feel differently. If Larry were here, he would certainly be saying that he would want the bus stop. Sorry, Larry.
For traffic, yeah, there's so much for traffic right there. The idea of just a bus coming, adding to that.
I agree. south side of 42nd and Lex. Somebody says that there is a bus stop there.
The south side though.
I guess that's the problem, that's not on the north side. And then I think it's, I don't know what's across the street there.
Farther south, I think. Kind of away from the main intersection. That's a disaster.
Right, yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move to a vote on a resolution to support with, well, I guess actually, well, yeah, we could vote on it and then we'll have to come back and vote on it again with,
We just change the text.
we don't have it written,
Oh,
do we? We don't have it written.
We don't have a draft written, so, you know, if the committee views it as time sensitive, then the committee can vote on it and write out language and have it be before full board. But if it's not time sensitive in the committee's opinion, then,
I'm assuming this is not time, so the question for TDC is that if we don't pass a resolution formally today, our next, well, actually, we'll probably have a committee meeting in July, so
but the next full board meeting is September.
is September,
So,
yeah.
But
So
not past full board until September.
exactly, is that a problem for the timeline of this project if we didn't have the full resolution in support until September?
B has her hand raised.
Oh. Well, let me ask that and then we'll go to B.
Right, I believe we need your resolution to proceed with PDC preliminary design, so
Is that necessary before September?
let's see.
If it is, there is the
Yeah.
time sensitivity,
what's around?
part.
Yeah, so we had planned for the fall, so as soon as we receive your
Okay,
sign
so-
off, we could proceed, yeah. So it
will-
is sensitive, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, well, in that case, I think it would be appropriate for us to vote on it tonight
Yeah.
and we could circulate a resolution before full board this month to vote. I'm good moving to a vote on that resolution. Okay. Thank you. Brendan, we'll vote on the resolution in support of this proposal with the addition, the request to add a raised crosswalk on the east side of 3rd Avenue and 43rd.
Okay. When I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. B. Disman,
In favor.
Brock Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz,
In favor.
Marion Rowe,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
Okay, with all 6 committee members in favor, this resolution passes. We just need a writer.
I can write.
Thanks, Ron.
Sounds good.
B, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. Did you have anything you still want to add?
No, you actually covered, because I thought the resolution was time sensitive, so you took over for it.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. We have another presentation from DDC on pedestrian improvements on Lex between 41st, 45th, 46th, 47th, 48th Street.
Yes, this is Marlene Nunez. We do have members of the team here ready to present. I believe Besher and Andrea.
Thank you, guys. You have the floor.
Just 1 second. Jocelyn as well. Are they able to share their screen?
Yes, I apologize. I'm having some issues with my computer, so my audio is on my phone, but I will share the screen. Just let me know if it cuts in and out.
All good?
Hi everyone. I apologize. I'm not going to share my video right now just because I'm having so many connectivity issues. My name is Jocelyn Rothstein. I am the design project manager for the Lexington Avenue pedestrian safety improvement projects. It is in a similar location to the project that was just presented, but the difference in this one is actually a design build instead of a design bid build. With that being said, I'm going to go through the design build, the core project team, the location, project background, the intent and goals, existing conditions, proposed improvements, the community impacts, our community engagement approach, a little bit about Envision, and then I'll touch on our project schedule and milestones. So as I mentioned, this is a design build project. So as we are designing, we are going to be issuing packages one by one to get them out to construction while we're still working on our design. So I'm not sure if he's joined the call yet, but Daniel Cody from Tribe Construction is the project manager. As I mentioned, I am the design project manager, and we are working with DDC, with the sponsoring agencies of DOT and DEP to complete this project. This project is located, we have one small intersection at 41st and Lex. And then the bulk of the project is from 45th to 49th Street on Lexington Avenue, and also on 49th Street from Lex to 3rd Avenue. A little bit of background about this project. This corridor was identified as part of the Greater East Midtown rezoning. Looks like, hang on, I lost the screen. Just give me 1 second.
So if you all have issues, the office can share the slides. You can just say next slide, next slide. Let us know if that's necessary.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get it up. If it happens again, that may be the best way to do this.
Got to start coming to this with jokes prepared.
Okay. Okay. This is part of it was a corridor identified as part of the East Midtown rezoning. DOT back in 2001 installed some temporary improvements that you see out there now. Similar to that photo, it's the collapsible bollards and the tan area. We like to call it the surface to identify that it is a ped space and it is no longer usable by vehicles. That image illustrates that people are heavily using those in this corridor. So the project intent and goals. Largely, we are looking to bring each corner of these intersections up to ADA compliance, and that's going to include incidental sewer work, traffic signals, installing APS signals. We're also going to get some wayfinding signage in there, redo the pavement markings, and any incidentals with city bike, street furniture, etc. The project will also include water main replacement, which I'll only touch on today, because the intent of this project is to talk about our approved schematic geometric design. But we also will be replacing the 20-inch water main that exists in Lexington Avenue from 45th to 49th, as well as we are going to upgrade the 6-inch water main that's in 49th Street between Lex and 3rd to a 12-inch water main. And there's some incidental 6-inch water main work being done to connect to the Grand Central Viaduct and for some hydrant connections. This is just a sort of an image of the existing conditions. You'll see we've tried to annotate the existing ped space that's already out there, the express bus lane, showing the existing pink granite that's on each corner quadrant right now, which I'll get into a little bit later. Here's a close-up of our existing conditions. This is Lex and 41st. I'm sure you're all very familiar with what's out there now. This is 45th and 46th. Similar 47th and 48th. You can see again all the striping that DOT has done. Onto our proposed improvements. So at 41st and Lex, again, as I mentioned, we are going to be upgrading all four corners for ADA compliance. And at 41st Street, the only curb extension that we are going to be implementing is on the east side. What I should have mentioned earlier is that this project is only implementing curb extensions on the east side of the roadway. Unfortunately, due to complications with the Grand Central Viaduct and how close that is to Lexington Avenue, we cannot add curb extensions on the west side right now. Moving up to 45th and 46th Street, again, you'll see our curb extensions. We've got 2 on the east side at 45th. We've got 1 on the east side of 46th. And we will be maintaining the DOT striped headspace on the west side of the street throughout the corridor. You know, this again shows the same thing for 47th and 48th. Again, it's 2 curb extensions at 47th and only 1 at 48th. Along these lines, I know the pink granite that's out there has been discussed heavily. We will be removing the existing pink granite and putting back tinted sidewalk. Here's sort of just a first person rendering. This one happens to be at 41st Street, so you can get an idea of what it'll look like when the project is finished. During construction, you know, everybody's always concerned about impacts. You know, there will be temporary traffic lane and sidewalk closures, the loss of parking, temporary relocations of bus stops. When we're doing the water main work, there will be water main shutdowns. And we are actually currently still working with DOT to figure out working hours on night times and weekends and see how much daytime work we can do, because we have heard the community regarding some of the night work that was happening during our site validation phase. And as the community's been doing throughout this process, you know, they should continue to reach out to Diane Guskin, who is our CCL. Again, this being a design build project, we'd like to keep the community involved, you know, so we will come back multiple times and provide status updates and let you know where we are, and take in your feedback and see what we can do to give the community what they're looking for. This project will also be implementing Envision. DDC has standard typologies and standard levels of award that we need to achieve per project. For a streetworks project like this one, we typically, you know, we're required to get a silver award, but we are aiming for a gold award. You know, the purpose of Envision is just to foster necessary improvement in performance and resiliency of our physical infrastructure across the spectrum of sustainability. And what Envision does is it just provides a framework for us to do that. Moving forward to our schedule. Again, this project is going to function a little bit differently. We are currently in design. What I just presented to you is our approved schematic geometric design. And we will be moving that forward to 60%. But in the interim, we are working on other packages for water main design, because the intent is to get the contractor out and working on installing the new water main and doing any incidental private utility relocations while we're still working on the design of the corner quadrants. So we've got some pretty brief milestones. We had our site validation period, which is now over. And we are looking to start the utility and water main construction this summer. And then the sidewalk and any incidental roadway construction will happen in May of 2025 is what we're targeting, with substantial completion in March of 2027. So what the design build process allows us to do is, you know, right now we have a 3.5-year schedule, where a design bid build project usually has a 7-year schedule. So we're trying to save 3.5 years by doing it this way. That's all I've got. If you've got any questions.
I am sure we do. I'll open it up. Gabe?
Real quick, why would you use design bid build under one scenario and design build under a very similar scenario? I'm wondering, given the timeline improvements of design build, what the merits are of design bid build or vice versa.
I will leave that. Can someone from GDC answer that question?
All right.
Next question.
Well, yeah,
Sorry, this is Marlene Nunez from CDC Outreach. I'll take any questions beyond what Jocelyn can answer, and then I'll once we consult with our team.
do you wanna, I think, got.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering why you would use one design build under one scenario and design bid build under one very similar scenario. You know, what would be the differentiating factor there?
Sure, thank you for your question. I'll certainly get back to you once we speak with our design team and program management at CDC.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Brock?
So on the west side of Lexington, there's this like widened pedestrian space. But you know, I see a lot of pedestrians don't really walk there because maybe feel uncomfortable. It's not really protected. It just has a flexible bollards there. If I understood you correctly, you're not gonna touch that space, or are you gonna raise it or not touch it?
We're not right now. We're just maintaining what DOT has put out there. So, you know, we'll put back the flexible dollars and keep it as a designated ped space, but we're not raising it and we're not doing anything to it at the moment.
Okay. And you said it's like a 3.5-year project. So this is not really time sensitive, or it is, or?
Oh, this is very time sensitive. So, but we are, because it's design build, we're going to be issuing, you know, multiple packages. And the way it typically works is that the utilities get installed first. So right now we are focusing on getting utility packages out for construction. So that can get started while we're still coordinating with stakeholders in the community on any surface features for the corners and any wayfinding, you know, elements like that.
Would you consider like bollards for that pedestrianization area to kind of, you know, since it's at the same level as the street, you know, kind of needs some good protection there. Would you consider bollards to kind of protect the pedestrians from the moving traffic on the west side, talking about Lex?
We can bring that request to GDC and to DOT. You know, it's not something I can necessarily make a decision on without them. But we can request it. We can see what they say.
Thank you.
You said that there's no plans to change it from painted markings to more of a full sidewalk. Why? Why can't we have a full sidewalk there?
On the west side?
Yes.
At the intersections, I think it's largely because of the Grand Central Viaduct. So right, you'll see a bridge joint essentially, sort of at the edge of the crosswalk. So there's a whole wall underneath there, and that's the differentiation between Grand Central Station and the roadway. So it's parts of it are touching, parts of it are attached, and I also believe that the train shed is slated for repair or replacement in the near future, which just complicates the issue right now.
Yes. How's that accounted for though with the existing sidewalk? Because there is sidewalk in that area.
There is, but by just doing the corner quadrant right now, we don't have to do any significant regrading or repair to the sidewalk or to the roadway. We're just focusing on the corner quadrant.
I see. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? We have one from the public, if there's nothing else from the committee. Okay, so Nancy asks, states and asks, when there's heavy rain, there is ponding at the southwest corner of Lexington and 41st Street. There was a catch basin and sewer there, but it was paved over. Can that be restored?
So you said the southwest corner.
Southwest
Lex and
corner of
41st,
Lex.
on Lex or on 41st?
It does not specify. Nancy, we're standing by.
Okay. We are looking into the drainage and we will be making some improvements. So the answer is yes, essentially. We're gonna do our best to mitigate any ponding that's out there now.
She said on 41st at Lex.
So it's the whole, okay, it's the whole corner. So we'll take a look at it. It's something we haven't quite gotten there yet. Again, this was just for our approved SGD. As we move forward into our 60% design, we are absolutely going to take a look at the existing catch basins, what's missing, where there's ponding, and get the issue corrected.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Does anyone want to?
The person had their hand raised. Andrea, I think, Andrea Nunez.
They may have
They
lowered
might
it.
have put it.
Yeah.
Andrea is a member of TDC Design. Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah.
I'm Andrea Nunez. I'm the engineer in charge for the 43rd Street project, as well as assisting with the design on the Lexington Avenue. The decision to go design build versus the traditional path is, for example, that western segment, that would be more design bid build process, because it would require a lot more coordination to install the security measures and coordinate the foundations for those security measures, and as well as involved Public Design Commission in the decision-making process. So those are some of the reasons why that western side of Lexington Avenue is not included in the design build contract. And I hope that helps clarify something that Marilyn will follow up with the overall team, but I just wanted to share those thoughts in this meeting.
Thanks.
That helps, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any thoughts on our resolution?
Yeah, I think we could bring forward a resolution in support of this project. I would second, thank you, Dave. Would maybe just add bollards to protect pedestrianized space that's at street level.
Permanent metal
Permanent.
bollards of some concrete, not
Concrete,
flat
metal,
Yeah.
not, hardened infrastructure, I think would.
Yeah, I think that's the right. The
Hardened
wording.
infrastructure.
Yeah, hardened infrastructure in lieu of flex posts.
Yes, so.
Let's open that up for discussion. Any comments on that from the committee in terms of proposed resolution?
Would we have to pass multiple resolutions since it sounds like it's gonna change? Are they gonna build it out as they go?
The designs. I don't, yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a different process for us than normal, but I don't think so. I think we would just be in support of like the vision that they have.
Okay.
Seeing no other comments, let's move to a vote.
Okay. When I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Pete Isman,
In favor?
Rob Friedman,
In favor?
Jason Fromwich,
In favor.
Marion Rowe,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 6 committee members in favor, this resolution passes. We just need a writer.
Happy to do it again, it's so similar to the.
Okay.
You wanna do it?
No, I don't want to do it. I don't want somebody else to do it. Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Brock.
So similar.
All right, moving up, next DDC. Next up on the agenda, we have HG Opco LLC, presenting a proposed bus stop at East 34th Street between 3rd Avenue and Lexington. I believe we have somebody on.
Yes, Jeff Lynch is on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you great. Do you have the floor? Thank
you. Yes, hi, I'm Jeff Lynch, president of Hampton Jitney. I'm here representing HJ Opco LLC for this bus stop permit on East 34th Street. HJ Opco is an operating subsidiary of Hampton Jitney Inc. It was created in 2020. It's a New York State corporation used for the purpose of acquiring a company called Hampton Luxury Liner, which is another coach service that operates scheduled service between the South Fork of Long Island and Manhattan. We run it alongside our Hampton Jitney and Hampton Ambassador services. Traditionally, the last few seasons, we've been running it up 3rd Avenue, down Lexington, like our other services. This winter, we decided we reconfigured the service to originate and terminate at Hudson Yards. So we wanted to utilize a westbound drop-off for our passengers coming in from Long Island as well. This stop at 155 East 34th Street. We currently have a permit for this location. However, it's under Hampton Jitney Inc., not HJ Opco LLC. It's a seasonal bus stop used only between May and October. And again, it's drop off only. We do not do pickups there, but because HJ Opco has a separate DOT operating authority from Hampton Jitney Inc. in order to convert the bus stop from Hampton Jitney to Hampton Luxury Liner, we needed to submit this new application. Again, it's going to be a seasonal bus stop. There is a change to the schedule. The drop-off times will not be the same, and it's going from 2 days a week to 7 days a week in the season. The max number of drop-offs on any given day during the week will be 4. The stop itself, again, it's the permit that we currently have expires on December 18th, 2024. We are not using it or had no plans to use it under the Hampton Jitney banner this season, but would like to use it under the Hampton Luxury Liner brand. Again, it's a reconfigured service. We do have existing Hampton Luxury Liner stops along 3rd Avenue and Lexington. Those stops would, if the service is successful, would probably be abandoned. I don't think we would need those duplicate bus stops on the east side as well. So I'm happy to take any questions regarding the stop. But again, we've been operating in CB6 for quite some time, and most of our busiest stops are in this zone. So happy to take any questions regarding our service in any of those brands.
Thank you very much. I'll start us off. Could you describe, is there any difference between the Jitney service and the luxury liner service other than the branding? Like,
there's no significant difference. The main thing is we intentionally separated it from Hampton Jitney. It's strictly an online service where I'm not going to say low budget, but a lower tier to our existing Jitney and Ambassador services. It's no amenities on board, no trip host person. Everything is done online, and again, it's only as opposed to the other services that run year round. This is only going to run through Memorial Day through Labor Day.
Sorry, which one's the online versus the
Hampton Luxury Liner is the online sort of no frills service relative to Hampton Jitney and Hampton Ambassador.
Okay, thanks. And then one other question for me. Are there any drop off, or sorry, pickup points within CB6 or on the east side?
Yes, so we
As-
currently have Hampton Luxury Liner has a stop on Lexington and 40th. It's actually on between 40th and 39th. That pickup location will continue. But the stops that are further uptown on Lexington, we have a pickup on East 47th Street and Lexington, as well as drop-offs along 3rd Avenue up to 51st Street. We would not be utilizing those stops this summer for Hampton Luxury Liner.
Thanks. Anybody else? Brooke?
Just if I understood you correctly, there's some buses that are going away and there's some being added. Is it about the same number of stops?
It's yes, it evens out, so it's roughly the same frequency. It's just rather than these trips going up 3rd Avenue and dropping off passengers there and then turning around and picking up on Lexington Avenue, everything will be run across 34th Street. So the existing stop shows, I believe, 4 or 5 drop-offs. It's a Hampton Jitney stop that we use very infrequently. That will now become 23 stops, I think, during the week in all 7 days. But those same 23 trips will not go up 3rd Avenue or down Lexington. Everything is confined to 34th Street.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We have one comment from the public, which I will read out loud. There is a MTA bus stop at the northwest corner of 3rd Avenue and 34th Street near 155 East 34th Street. Will this intercity bus stop fit within the existing bus stop, within the proposed busway and the truck route designation? My understanding is it would be at the existing bus stop in the bus lane at that location.
It is sharing the same bus stop as the MTA buses.
And I believe we received in a letter from the MTA that they, or from DOT, that they believe there was enough capacity for both at that stop.
Yes.
We have a resolution that was distributed ahead of time potentially in support of this. Would anybody like to raise any motions related to that?
Motion in support of the resolution.
Second by Brock. All right. We'll open it up for discussion then. Wrong resolution, Brendan. No problem.
Yeah, resolution rich today.
Yeah, we have a lot of resolutions going on.
Yeah.
I will add maybe one thing here from what was distributed by me ahead of time. It would be just to note that it's a seasonal, May to October. I don't know where I would want that, probably.
Is it just statement of fact? If so, then a whereas clause.
Yeah, probably under the Long Island, New York. Say whereas service will operate from May through October.
Can it just be added to the line right above that one?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
The 2 to 4 times a day one?
No, just that one. New York City from May to October.
Oh, sure.
That's any other thoughts, comments, changes? Okay, let's move to vote. Sorry, Jerry.
Was that pop-up dialogue and then answer, did we answer question?
Yeah, that was the question answered before, yes, sorry. Okay, let's move to vote, Brendan.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. B. Disman.
In favor.
Brock Friedman.
In favor.
Jason Cromwell.
In favor?
Marion Rowe.
In favor.
Larry Shire. That's right, Larry isn't here, so that case. Gabe Terzo
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 6 committee members in favor, this resolution passes.
Thank you, Brendan. All right, next on the agenda, we have a discussion of proposal for honorary street co-naming of Jamal Khashoggi on the intersection of East 46th Street and Second Avenue. I believe we have members of the petitioners here.
Yes.
And actually, one of my colleagues from Washington DC is joining us on the screen.
Yes, Lauren?
That's Lauren, that's right.
Yes.
You guys have the floor. Thanks.
Should I stand? I don't want to confuse you guys because I'll be talking with her. Should I stand next to the screen?
Why don't you come join us at the table?
I don't want to hurt your neck, you know, like watching a tennis game. Yeah.
They chose to sit on that side.
Yeah. Well,
You're welcome to sit or stand, whatever you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. My name is Raed Jabbar. I am the advocacy director with DAWN, Democracy for the Arab World Now. It's the organization that was founded by Jamal Khashoggi. We are headquartered here in New York City, and we have offices all around the US. And Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm based in DC, graduate of NYU actually, but on the advocacy team now at DAWN.
So we're gonna give a quick presentation for why we're asking the committee to support our project, a proposal to co-name the street outside of the Saudi consulate across the corner from here to Jamal Khashoggi Way. Lauren, can you start with just some background about who we are and who Jamal Khashoggi was?
Yeah, so first of all, yeah, thanks everyone for your consideration for having us here today. I know this is a little bit different, I think, than the normal proposal. But just to give you some more background on Jamal Khashoggi, he was, you know, I believe one of this century's most significant advocates for democracy and human rights. For decades, as a leading Saudi journalist, he criticized the militant strain of Islamic extremism supported by the Saudi regime and advocated democratic reforms as the most effective way to tackle terror and political violence in the Middle East. In 2016, while he was still in Saudi working as a journalist, the Saudi regime silenced him. A close advisor, you know, called him and said, "You cannot write, you cannot tweet, you cannot appear on TV, you're done." And he had to make the painful decision to move to the US, what he described as self-exile, in order to continue to advocate for human rights and democracy. And so in September 2017, he became a contributing columnist for the Washington Post. He wrote and spoke boldly, as ever, advocating for freedom of speech and democracy, criticizing, among other things, the Saudi regime's imprisonment of political activists, their conduct in Yemen. And in June 2018, just months before his murder, Khashoggi and a group of friends founded DAWN. DAWN's mission was one and the same with what Khashoggi stood for, which is, again, to promote democracy and human rights in the Arab world. On October 2nd, 2018, he entered the Saudi consulate in Istanbul to get documents for his upcoming marriage, and he never emerged. And by November, the CIA had concluded, based on phone calls and audio recordings, that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered Khashoggi's assassination. And 7 months later, in June 2018, the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Summary or Arbitrary Executions released a meticulous report on the elaborately planned and coordinated assassination of Jamal, concluding by urging the UN Secretary General to establish both an instrument for the criminal investigation of targeted killings, and also with a call to action for civil society to construct memorials in Mr. Khashoggi's name in front of Saudi consulates around the world. And so that's why we're with you today. We're in the hopes that we can answer Special Rapporteur Kalamar's call to action by co-naming this street outside the Saudi consulate in New York as Jamal Khashoggi Way.
Thank you, Lauren. It's actually very unusual for the United Nations to put an international call to change the names of the streets outside of consulates. We haven't found any other examples, and the reason why we're here in New York to ask for New York City to follow suit is we have actually done this in DC and Los Angeles in the last couple of years. We started in Washington, DC, outside of the Saudi embassy there. We changed the name of the street to Jamal Khashoggi Way in 2022. And that took a while, you know, and the city council resolution, the same way that we can do it here in New York. Last year, we went to Los Angeles and changed the name of the street outside of the Saudi consulate in LA to Jamal Khashoggi Square. And that also took, you know, a long time, a lot of deliberations, but there is a big sign outside of the consulate now that also, you know, holds his name. The reason why we thought about New York next is that, you know, on the one hand, the UN is hosted here, and the UN is the main source of this idea to change. More importantly, our headquarters is here in New York. We are an organization based in New York. I think many New Yorkers see the city as a symbol of freedom of expression, freedom of the press. You know, many of our friends who live around the city support this. We actually, our staff here collected a signature of over 100 folks from around our office in Brooklyn, but also around here in Manhattan, around the area of the consulate, that I would like to also request that is entered on the record of the committee. So our call ask for the committee is to help us rename the street outside the Saudi consulate, which is located in 866 2nd Avenue in New York. Change co-name the street to Jamal Khashoggi Way. And you know, we would love to get the committee's support for this, and they can answer any of your questions or if you have any concerns about this.
Thank you very much. Brendan, can you pull up before we open it up to questions, the guidelines that we have on street naming? I just want that to sort of frame this discussion. Hopefully, members of the committee are familiar with it, but I just wanted to kind of break that up and like give everybody an opportunity to read it as we're discussing this. I'll go to B, because I see your hand up. Go ahead, B, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I just wanted a little clarity as to where the Saudi embassy consulate is and where you're talking about the co-naming. Because when you said outside in our resolution, outside of the Saudi embassy, I wasn't clear on the street we're actually talking about.
It looks like the same block as Dag Hammarskjöld Square or Plaza. I put in the address you mentioned and it.
You know, I think it's, yeah.
Okay.
So Dag.
That's right here.
Yeah, I just get Dag. That's as close as I get. It's right, yeah, so that is the same intersection as the park.
Yeah, well, it's the intersection south of the.
No, sorry, yes, the block is shared with.
Yeah, the request is for 46th and 2nd.
That's right, but the street sign right outside of the entrance of the building.
I see.
So you're saying the embassy, if I could just clarify, is on 46th and 2nd itself?
Yeah, the address is 866 2nd Street.
Second Avenue.
2nd Avenue, so it's on 2nd Avenue itself.
And this would be the corner street.
Sorry, go ahead, B.
No, it's not 2nd Avenue, it's 46th Street that we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. I don't know how that normally works, actually. Do we designate the 46th versus, is it the intersection that the sign? I guess it's a question of which direction the sign points.
I think like 46th Street, like the block of 2nd Avenue between 46th and 47th is the one that should be co-named. So the sign will be hanging under the 2nd Avenue sign.
Okay.
Because that's what the entrance of the building is.
Got it. That makes sense. Any other discussion? Sure.
Two brief things. I don't know if it's within our authority or recommendation, but I would suggest like a placard, unlike Stephen Sondheim, who is society or whatnot wants to have a street name. He's familiar, and sadly, Ashoki is not familiar to too many people. And I would say in
That's so
addition,
crazy that
I know, in addition to the, I would say some sort of descriptor would be very helpful to your mission.
Yeah, actually, it's really fascinating that you say this, because this is what we did in Los Angeles. So in Los Angeles, we ended up having a larger sign. And the text of that sign said, Saudi journalist who was killed by agents of the Saudi government. Because not everyone knows the name Jamal Khashoggi. So it was very helpful for people to actually realize that. And if that is an option in New York, Steve would actually like that, because I think many people would pass by and say, what is this name? But if there are a few words that describe his life, I think it would be easier for people to understand and remember him.
And the second half is, did you receive pushback of a like explicit nature between LA and DC that interrupted like adoption?
Yeah, and believe it or not, exactly zero pushback, which is very, it was surprising to us. When we started the process, we were, expecting that the huge PR machine, multi-million-dollar PR machine will go after us. But I think the Saudi government has given orders to their PR machines to never touch the issue. So they don't engage with us at all.
Well, do you know the rule of threes in journalism?
No.
Typically, it's when editors say there's a story. So if this happens, you can pitch a story to a lot of the major outlets to get some publicity.
Well, now we get the third one. That's right. But it was actually very fascinating, because the first street that we changed went all the way. We got letters from Congress to assure the DC City Council that this is something that Congress supports. We got thumbs up from the State Department, from the White, everyone, to make sure that they're not, because they were kind of anxious about it. They were just like, we're a small city council. We don't want to get involved in a war between the US and Saudi Arabia. But there was definitely absolutely no pushback, no comment. And the day that we showed up outside the Saudi embassy, they also gave the staff time off, was closed, absolutely no interactions. And the same happened in Los Angeles.
You were mentioning that this was a project of the United Nations that they recommended.
Yeah.
Which part of the United Nations, you might have said it already and I missed it. Which part of the United Nations is recommending?
Yeah, I think we mentioned it briefly. So this was a report, which is, it's a report from the UN Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial killing. And the report came around exactly this time, around June 3rd of 2019. And the report was written by the Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial killing and arbitrary detention. His name is Agnès Callamard, which is currently the executive director, the leader of Amnesty International, which also has their headquarters here in New York. So she wrote this very lengthy report that came to the conclusion that the Saudi government was behind the assassination. And she came up with this very unusual recommendation to change the names of streets outside of embassies and consulates, because that's where he was killed. He was killed in a consulate in Turkey, to memorize his name. And honestly, without that report, we would have not thought about the idea. But because of the UN recommendation, it became, something that now, it's becoming our annual tradition.
Another question for you, it's a murder. Why didn't they recommend to go to international court, or was there any recommendation for international court? Has it been in any court?
It has. There were actually multiple lawsuits, some of them in local jurisdictions. Like we had a lawsuit in the United States There was a lawsuit in Turkey. There is an ongoing legal action with the European Union as we speak. The issue does not arise to the level for like the International Criminal Court to take the issue. The ICC, ICJ usually only deals with like states having fights. You know, there is no state that is fighting over this. So it was difficult to go for like an international body per se. But our idea was to call for justice through either countries that have universal jurisdiction or countries that have some sort of jurisdiction, like the US had jurisdiction because Jamal Khashoggi was the US president, and his organization is an American organization. So that's why we sued here in the US.
Well, speak to your question. Is it because Saudi Arabia is on the executive council?
I mean, that's not the reason to, to exclude them.
Yeah, but I'm saying that they could block any.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, but one of the things that we did as well was we filed criminal complaints, not just civil complaints, with countries that allow criminal complaints or referrals, like France, for example. They have like somehow like a universal jurisdiction over criminal referrals if someone is on French land, So we waited until Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, landed in Paris, and we served him, and we sent a referral to the prosecutor there. So we're trying our best. There are very few venues for for actual justice through the legal systems. We haven't let go there, but I think to keep his memory alive, we are doing the street renaming. We have an annual gala as well to remember him every October, and that's usually when we announce the new street name. So the first year it was on October, last year it was on October 2nd as well. And this year and the next year, hopefully we're going to be changing the street names here in New York or in other places around the US. Let's go.
So looking at the criteria for, street name co-naming, I think this falls under the criteria of extraordinary contribution to the service of community. Certainly for what he's done, what he did, his moving here, the issues he took in front of him. So I would be supportive of the resolution. And I was trying to look at the written resolution to see if we mentioned the other places that had street namings and also the United Nations report. Unfortunately, I couldn't read it with my eyesight. So Josh, maybe you can tell me whether it's part of the resolution.
It's not in there, but we could edit.
Yeah, because I think it would be very significant to show that it's not New York going alone. It's already been in those locations, and the United Nations report is very significant, and the recommendations.
And when I saw this as one of the agenda items, I was like, oh, cool. And then I started reading the resolution. I was like, oh, is Lincoln going to be joining our call, or like Linda Thomas Greenfield joining our call? I've been very curious about what the conversation was going to be like. So it's nice to hear that DC's already done it.
Yeah.
I actually would have loved it if New York was the first one to do it. So maybe we'll just forget that DC and LA have already done this. I had one suggestion for the resolution, Jason, and that was just having a separate line. So where the cursor is right now, Brendan, the proposed co-naming would honor Jamal Khashoggi's memory and demonstrate support for the human rights of free expression and a free press. I feel like free press needs its own special line, especially as we're seeing so many journalists get targeted in multiple places around the world.
That's right.
And Jamal's name has been coming up a lot, at least in my world and what I pay attention to. So I just feel like freedom of press really just needs to be like emphasized instead of added in the end of a line.
Can you hold that thought until we move into discussing the resolution? No,
This whole Robert's Rules thing, it's really messing me up. I don't get it.
I'll bold the words free press, so that
Thank
way
you.
there's a visual reminder to circle back.
Thank you.
I'll raise something. So I very much appreciate you guys coming in. I strongly support your work and recognize the contribution that Jamal Khashoggi had to democracy as a whole. I have some concerns about his connection to New York City. I'm not necessarily opposed to this proposal, but it's not clear to me the connection to New York City and to the idea of renaming the street for him. Which again is not to say that I don't recognize that I don't think he's significant. I just have some reservations about whether or not this is in the spirit of what we do generally for street co-namings, and perhaps we would do something that's different from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the short answer, and like, you're right, like there is no direct connection. Jamal Khashoggi was not born in New York City, and Jamal Khashoggi was not killed in New York City. But the reason why we saw the connection is that New York City is a city of immigrants and strangers, and he was a stranger in this country. You know, many of us who work at Dawn, we're immigrants, we come from the Middle East, and we search for a new home in this country. And New York is home to many immigrants. New York is home to many Jamal Khashoggis and many journalists who would have been killed if they did not have a space for a free and safe city to work in. So we thought that Jamal is like a bigger than life kind of symbol, and New York City has a lot of other commemorations and the symbols of people who are not directly connected to New York, but connected to larger ideas and values that New York represents. And I think that's why, for us, especially as an organization headquartered in New York, it makes the most sense to come here next, like after we're done with other places that we have offices.
Thank you. Good bit.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think it does, if we're going strict criteria, one of them is extraordinary service to humanity, and I think it does meet that. And I think just for my personal, I do remember this quite well, and to be potentially part of this co-naming, I strongly support it, and I'm honored to be a part of it, and I think it's wonderful that you're doing it, even though you went to LA before us.
Yeah.
We'd like to strike LA from the record.
And DC.
And DC.
Right.
Yeah, I came here, definitely biased against this because, this guy's not from New York. What's his ties to New York? But I think you made a good presentation. It's United Nations based in New York. Dawn, you're based in New York. There's precedent for it. There's Yitzhak Rabin Way, who was an Israeli Prime Minister for Peace, who was assassinated. So there is precedent for people who are not from here who, for peace, something extraordinary. So I would support it.
Yeah, I was thinking the UN is headquartered here, and also New York is a global city, right? So it's not just us, but I like to think we're the center of the world, if it's not obvious already.
Uh-oh.
Are we still on?
I think maybe their camera broke, or if anyone can hear us, we can't.
Can you hear us? Because we can't hear you.
You can't see you either.
We can't hear or see you. Hello?
Can you hear us now?
Hear us now?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
we now hear you.
I don't know what happened there.
Was that owl sign with the owl rebooting?
It must
Oh
have
my
been.
God.
I thought I had
Does this thing go ooh, ooh?
Yeah, when it turns on, so
Whoa.
someone might have.
thought there was a
so-
bug.
like,
Someone may have.
It's called an owl.
losing my mind.
This thing is
That
called
is
an
called
owl?
Yes,
You should have
so
this
someone may have, I see the video is not on. Now, someone.
I see the owl. Okay, I see you guys
Oh.
now.
Someone may have moved some wires by accident, so let's.
Is this a camera too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Did you have a question? Okay.
Pretty much, so.
Thank you. Okay, so we have proposed resolution. Does anybody want to move? that we just propose this resolution?
So I would like you to add a couple of points factually about DC, LA, and also the United Nations report.
Yes, I was thinking I think we have to move, I might be wrong, but you know better than I do, that we have to move for the motion for the.
Well, I'm
resolution.
going to recommend an amendment to the resolution, so you could
Okay.
vote on those amendments.
Okay, yes, thank you.
So what would the text be like, just so I make sure it's reflected here?
No, Brendan, I can't, because of my eyesight, I can't really read it on the screen. I'd have to pull it up on my iPhone. But I think what's really important here is to talk about the United Nations report, to get the exact name of the report, when it was issued, that recommended the co-naming, and then indicating that these would be two whereases. And then the next whereas would be is already co-naming in DC and LA.
Okay, so I'll just make a note, insert whereas about.
We don't have to get the details of it.
I just emailed you the language for both.
Oh, wow.
Because I have it written here.
That's fast.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write it, just written before.
And then is the correct term outside the Saudi consulate, is it outside to express exactly what we're talking about?
Yeah, I suppose it would be more of the corner
Yeah, I think we have to be more specific.
adjacent to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it southeast corner of 46th and Second?
It's southwest.
Southwest?
South,
Northeast.
northeast corner of 42nd and second and 46th.
Oh, northwest, not
No,
southwest?
I'll show you. I think it's northeast section.
Because,
It's the northeast corner.
Is it described on the, I think I wrote it in the proposed resolution.
okay.
I think so.
I'll double
Yeah.
check.
This is
It says northeast corner.
northeast corner.
The resolution title says northeast corner.
Okay.
The resolve clause says northeast corner. That's where the Saudi consulate is.
Right. So we want to update the, instead of outside of, there's a couple lines up and,
Okay.
yeah, whereas.
Send
change
us an example of this LA placard.
Yes.
So the proposed location is.
Change outside to adjacent. The corner adjacent to. Proposed location is on the, yeah. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
This is our bill one in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Oh, very nice.
So I mean, for the record, it says Jamal Khashoggi Square, a journalist and advocate for human rights and democracy, slain by the government of Saudi Arabia.
It might be outside the purview of the transportation committee, though.
To put a sign.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem.
We could ask about, Colleen, is there a process for that? Could we request that here? Do you have anything to say beyond that in terms of what DOT would put, like to augment this renaming?
Hey, so it's Colleen from DOT. I mean, this is a fantastic initiative. I usually don't say anything with street code naming requests, but I think this is really worth the wait. And it's definitely something that the community should pursue, given that we're such a great city to be in, and the UN is here as well. In terms of our involvement, we would create the sign and we would install it. This is something you would have to work with your local city council member to push this. And I'm sure that your council member will be supportive of this as well.
So specifically, Colleen, though, in terms of like an additional explanatory sign to explain the purpose of the renaming, is that something
No, it would be a street code. I'm sure you know this. It would be a street co-naming, so it would be below, the existing sign that's currently there at the intersection. But there's no additional, no.
So we couldn't ask for that, that was sort of my question is.
I mean, I would think it's worth putting it in the resolution. It's worth considering. So I would advise that you include it in the resolution.
Okay, thanks, Glenn.
Yeah.
Do you have specific wording you would like to? Was it you who, actually, I don't know who suggested that. I think it was you.
Jerry, I think it was Jerry.
Sorry, Jerry. Do you have specific wording that you would want to see?
Jerry's already designed it.
It's a placard.
You don't see the one.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we need to necessarily specify the plaque or this text of the plaque. I think maybe just wording on the resolution, asking for a plaque. With an explanatory
Can you
plaque.
see we're getting really carried away?
I can.
Therefore be it further resolved,
There's gonna be a statue of him, but by the end of this meeting.
CV6 supports an additional sign explaining the significance of Jamal Khashoggi.
That's fine.
And I have community word 6. Supports additional sign.
Or plaque.
I would say plaque.
Additional plaque.
A plaque much larger than the one in Los Angeles.
Don't be greedy.
Additional plaque.
It's like a bit.
Explaining the historical significance of Jamal Khashoggi.
Yeah.
You had some feedback changes that you wanted.
Oh, the freedom of press, just
Yes.
You wanted,
a special line just for that. I think it might be useful to get help from Dawn representatives
Yeah.
on that one.
We can suggest language, I think, because Jamal Khashoggi as a columnist with the Washington Post, I think that deserves a separate line there.
Yeah,
we could add that in.
Yeah, I can suggest that.
So the additional clauses, we don't need to work out the text now, but just so that there's a reference. So a clause on free press, a clause on the UN report.
Does it already mention that the UN headquarters is gonna be just like a block away?
It does not.
I think just connecting that,
UN report and UN headquarters in one whereas.
yeah, if it's easy to do, if not two. I prefer one.
So an additional whereas clause on free press, an additional clause on UN headquarters, and a clause mentioning this UN report, which I did get.
Well, you could deal with it in one sentence by New York City is the headquarters of the UN, which issued a report, so and so.
That makes sense. And I think there was a request for a clause that mentions that other cities have done that before.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I sent you that language as well.
Yes.
New York, sadly, becomes the third city.
B, I think this might be the only time where I will disagree with you and say we should pretend we don't know that it exists anywhere else.
No, there's something about council people knowing that there exists other places that makes it significant, that they're not going out on their own.
Right.
Okay, understood.
Letty's got her hand raised. Brenda, if you can give her the permissions to have this one.
Okay, well, you should be able to speak now.
Sorry.
No, no questions?
Thank you, but sorry.
Okay, very good. No problem. We also had something in the text from Gloria asking about a whereas clause for promoting democracy. I think that's covered.
I think human rights is the significant one.
Can we do international human rights?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine with me. The international human rights.
So insert into that whereas clause or a different clause?
Right there.
Yeah.
Right there, where you have the cursor.
Any other, Brett?
You call for a vote?
Sure, yeah. Sanders. All right.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Pete Isman,
In favor.
Rob Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Cromwitz,
In favor.
Marion Rowe,
Absolutely in favor.
Dave Turzo,
In favor.
Jerry Weinstein.
Extraordinarily in favor.
With all 6 committee members in favor, this resolution passes.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for your work.
All right, moving on the agenda, we have discussion on a proposing a busway on 34th Street. Barack, I will give you the phone.
So, congestion pricing coming, right? And the DOT is making a plan, for congestion pricing so people can get around this area. And 34th Street has been designated a bus priority. And we see how successful 14th Street is busway. And we want to, replicate that experience on 34th Street and make it's probably 34th Street is much more significant than 14th Street in a way, because there's so many more buses going through them, and it's such a major, transportation hub for us. So this is just, CV6 has a history of being proactive with transportation issues, so I think it's important for us to be proactive and state that we do want a busway on 34th Street.
All right, I will open it up for questions, discussion.
Yeah, I just want to point out that all of the doomsday scenarios that were presented before the 14th Street busway was rolled out never came to pass.
And we attempted to address that in the resolution.
Okay.
About traffic not being impacted and citing the study that followed on it.
Yes, I'll share the proposed resolution.
I'm strongly in support of this resolution. I think the 14th Street busway was nothing more than extraordinarily successful. I utilize it very regularly. 14th Street, it has drastically improved the ability to get across town. And I also, conversely, I used to live 35th Street and used to work on the west side. So I used to live on 3rd and 35th, and I used to work in Hudson Yards. Getting across town on the M34 was terrible, and I'm usually opted to walk because it didn't make sense to wait for the bus. That rarely took the bus. So it would be great if the bus on 34th Street were as reliable as the current implementation of the bus on 14th Street. Those are my comments. Anybody else?
I just wanted to note, Jason, that the person whose hand is raised is Samir, the chair of CP5.
Yes, Samir, please.
I had a comment though. We're doing board members first.
Yes, yeah, well, hold on, we will bring it up, Samir, sorry, but yeah, go ahead.
Because 34th Street is so close to the Midtown Tunnel and because congestion has gotten so bad, that's my only fear is what are the streets north of it gonna look like because it's so close to the Midtown Tunnel. So I'd say from 37th Street up, it's been a disaster.
The best case study we have for these sorts of things is really congestion pricing in London. And what we've seen is mode shift has been such that the traffic overflows that are sort of anticipated on the border of places that are restricting traffic don't really tend to materialize in the way that people are kind of logically afraid that they might.
I can say I live near you.
How close?
Very close. And we're neighbors, and I live just north of 34th Street too. And I live near Midtown, Midtown Tunnel, and it's horrible. It's so bad that it's hard to imagine it getting worse. Like, there's no more space.
Right,
Like, that's it.
right.
It can't get any worse than it is now. And if we have a busway through, we have to give a way for people to get across town. And if we don't, people are just gonna drive. But if we give them a way to get, we can just mode shift and we can increase frequency on the M34, the M34A, all the Queens buses coming in. You know, there's gonna be massive changes in traffic patterns all across the tri-state area within a month.
I hope so. It just sounds too good to be true, and I'm pretty traumatized right now, living where we apparently live. This is news to me.
Yeah, we're neighbors.
I mean, I want to believe in it. I do want to believe in it.
Let's go to Samir.
Hello, I just want to make sure, is this the right time for members of the public to give comment on the resolution?
Please, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I appreciate the recognition as Chair CB5, but I am here to speak in my personal capacity, so please
Yes.
do not make it sound like I'm speaking, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. So I used to live near 14th Street before there was the busway. They put in the busway and it made the buses so much better. And that's really something I would like to see replicated on every crosstown street that has a bus on it in Manhattan, especially south of 59th. I think it's going to be a huge improvement for bus riders, but also everyone who just lives on the street. You know, the 14th Street just got so much quieter after the change. And I lived in Singapore and London. Both places have congestion pricing. And yeah, it's really, you know, the way you make congestion pricing successful is not just by charging people. You really need to take advantage of that traffic decrease. So, you know, if the traffic goes down by 20%, you need to take advantage of that. You need to say, you know, we have 5-lane streets. Let's make them all 4 lanes. Let's cut it by 20%. So I think this is a great opportunity to reimagine what we can do with a street, especially in the context of congestion pricing for such a busy crosstown thoroughfare. And, you know, obviously it does touch CB5. So I would be excited to see what our community board has to say as well. And also CB4, because, you know, the busway should not just be in one board, but it should be across the whole way.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yes, similarly, I'm also speaking in favor of the busway concept for 34. I read the comments on 14 on how much better 14th Street got after the busway went in. I mean, with 34th Street too, it's way, if anything, it's even more important as a crosstown border because of just how many subway lines that the M34 bus intersects with. The fact that if you're going to Penn Station from anywhere on the east side, the most direct way if you're in East Midtown is 34th Street crosstown. The fact that the M34 bus still gets heavy usage during events at Javits, because that's one of the more direct ways to get out there. As well as the fact too that most of the traffic that exists on 34th now is private vehicle traffic. I think there was a study a few years back that showed that 90% of traffic on 34th was just private vehicles. Which congestion pricing will hopefully reduce significantly. But yeah, it's a great idea. It should, as Samir said, it should be all of the Manhattan, but along 14th Street is also like a busway from 181st Street now. So when you can be like the second one within the city, several other busways that have been implemented, like both in downtown Jamaica, downtown Brooklyn, downtown Flushing. So this wouldn't be a new thing. And considering just how important of a crosstown border 34th is, I think this is a no-brainer.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on that, there is no crosstown subway line on 34th Street.
Right.
As the Midtown cross streets makes it a little bit unique from 14th Street and adds to the need for a busway there.
Exactly.
Michael, go ahead.
Speaking of the board, the crosstown busway on 34th Street, I think that the crosstown busway, if they had put it in years ago, I think it would have been resulted in faster M34 than we have now. And I think it's a great idea to revive the proposal and implement it.
Thanks. We got a couple other hands. B first, please.
So I think one of the things that we need to do, since we wanted to go from east to west, and we have other community boards impacted. This is really something that we need to reach out, Jason, to the other community boards to get a consolidated position, because we don't own the whole 34th Street.
Yes, Brock, do you want to address?
Yeah, we have been meeting with CB4 and I should just say that maybe CB5's maybe in a tiny bit of flux right now, but we will be meeting with CB5 as well, but we are in talks with CB4.
They have expressed
a lot of interest in 42nd Street. Too, which is 42nd Street is very much needed too. But DOT has identified 34th Street as a priority, and that's imminent. And for congestion pricing, that's going to be really important to have a good thoroughfare on 34th Street. We should say that when the new Port Authority goes in, that 42nd Street is going to be even more important sooner rather than later.
All right, let's go to John.
Okay.
You will have the floor in a moment.
You should be able to speak now, John.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, as a resident of CB6 and someone who's recently used that crosstown bus from the west side and noticed how heavily used it is, I would fully support this busway. As mentioned before, there's no subway crosstown there. There's many parts of. I think it's well known that getting across town is rather challenging because of the lack of subway access, and I just want to say that I'd be fully supportive of a busway to decrease the travel time across 34th, and help people to get across town faster. Thanks.
Thanks, John. We have a written question from Nancy. She asks if there will be an opportunity for additional public comment. I think the answer to that is yes. We would still expect to see a proposal from DOT on specifics, which we would then have an opportunity to comment on and address. Also, there's full board for this specific resolution, where there can be additional comments and questions raised. And then there's a question about how it fits into the truck route design, given that 34th Street is a major cross street for trucks. You can answer that. Well, I'll get to Brock.
Oh, if you want, yeah,
so
I would
yeah.
just say 14th Street does allow trucks, so busways do allow trucks. So it's been hugely successful for deliveries on 14th Street. They've been pretty easy to do, and 34th Street obviously needs deliveries too, so that's going to be very helpful there.
Okay. Was there another hand? No. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion in support of the resolution.
Seconded.
All right. Now we'll open up discussion on the resolutions. Any comments, changes, questions on the resolution as proposed? Seeing none. We'll move to a vote. Brendan?
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Beedesman,
In favor?
Brock Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz,
In favor.
Miriam Rowe,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 6 committee members in favor, this resolution passes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to the next and almost final item. Actually, if we could maybe jump around on the order since we're getting late and we have Colleen and I don't want to lose her, to give her the opportunity to give a report, and then we'll go jump back to budget requests if we still have Colleen.
Yes, Colleen is still here.
Hey, I'm still here. How are you? I just wanted to let you know that since our site visit on FDR 23rd, I did check with our signals division and we did make some changes about a year ago regarding the signal timing and at that intersection. And I did email the board, sharing that update. And there are going to be some permanent changes once the construction is completed by DDC at that location, in terms of additional signal, changes as well. In terms, I think we had discussed, some protective barriers, flex posts, near the bike lane. So I'm looking into that and I'll keep you posted on that one as well, okay?
Thank you. And also on the potentially on the pedestrian island on the south end of the intersection, having flex posts or something to designate
Yeah.
that. Thanks, Colleen. I'll talk a little bit more about that in Jared's work, assuming it's not 10:30.
Thanks.
Thanks, Colleen. Anything else for Colleen?
Real quick, just following up from last month regarding the loading zone on 31st and 3rd in front of the Trader Joe's.
Sorry, we should be completed with our evaluation on that. So I'm going to be in the office tomorrow and I'll find out more from our borough engineer, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Colleen. Let's jump back now to budget requests. Brendan, if you pull up the doc, Miriam, thank you for providing comments in there.
My
I
pleasure.
think you were the only one to do so, thank you. I also added something at sort of the last minute.
Are you talking about?
The budget requests Google Doc.
Okay, just,
Sorry, did I not? I apologize if I didn't ask you to bring that up ahead of time.
yeah, it should only take me a moment.
So I guess to fill the time, we have, ahead of the meeting, I shared a Google Doc with our existing previous budget request items. And asked members of the committee to comment on the document for any changes or requests for changes and to let us know if there were any additions. We had Miriam provided some comments. I was hoping to have a little bit more of engagement on there. So we could bring up each one. I don't want to read and litigate each one, but we can bring up each one and for a brief discussion if there's any changes that we want.
Do I get a gold star?
You do get a gold star, I appreciate it, thank you. We'll go in order here. The first one, Brendan, actually, this was just the sort of instruction page, if you could jump to the next page. Yes, okay, first request we have at rank number 4 is on ADA compliance for the subway. There were no comments, I don't think, on this one.
Let's scroll to the next one.
So does anybody have anything they want to bring up on that one?
I'll just say that the congestion pricing is supposed to take care of ADA accessibility, so it's one and one the same issue. So
Just a quick point on all that. Can we not say that we urged that we stop breaking the law? That is really
probably
not in compliance.
You have specific verbiage you would like to add?
Something
Well, it doesn't say ADA non-compliant. I mean,
I know, but non-compliant is like it slipstreams past people's consciousness. People don't think like, oh, I'm in non-compliance.
It would get my attention.
I agree, but I'm not hearing any specific proposal. We'll move on. Okay,
To the next request.
yes, next request, please.
Okay.
We can talk afterwards if you have something that comes up. All right, next we had drainage for curb cuts. Also no comments here unless anybody has anything they want to raise.
Yeah, maybe
No.
bold it.
All right, we're leaving that.
Highlight.
Then we've got bus parking. There's a request to create layover space for buses in the district. I know Larry feels strongly about this one.
Sorry, for the curb cuts one, would one of the comments like just call us and we'll try to take care of it?
Yes, that is a fairly common response from the agency response. I have it pulled up here, but sorry.
Please in specific locations to the borough commissioner for review.
I'm gonna scroll back.
The last agency response. There you go.
Oh, yes. And I will say, just to interject on a service request basis, if there are any pedestrian ramps that are particularly bad, please do contact the office, but. Just a slight diversion from budget requests.
So. Would it be helpful if we provided specifics? Wait, sorry, am I on the right one?
We're looking at the curb cuts.
The curb cuts, right? Yeah, okay, okay, so are we good, or was there something?
Yeah, so would it make sense to just like remove this then?
Given that they have the funding, it's a valid question.
And that there's a process to like address it, right?
Um,
Like call the borough commissioner or reach out to the community board.
yeah, so there's a theory that. There's conflicting theories on having too many things, or that there's a benefit to having fewer things,
Yeah.
to give priority to other issues.
You can think about it.
I'm supportive of removing it. Other thoughts?
I don't know if we need to remove it until those physically exist in the world. And the reason why, and I should have wrote more in the spreadsheet or anything, but what I would consider, it's like there's the impact and community support and feasibility of these, but there's also what I would call like the advocacy factor, and something like this where, you know, we're talking about like, other things where CV6 talking is not gonna make a huge difference because they're big projects. Something like this is our advocacy is probably vital in keeping the momentum of it going. So who knows what budget hiccup, say there's like a, you know, some sort of economic whatever, right, in 2026. Does this go on the chopping block or not?
And so by continuing to ask for it, we continue to express the need for it.
Okay.
That's my feeling, yeah.
And that the funding continues to be allocated towards it. Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
B?
Yeah, I was gonna echo what was just said. You know, it's easy to say we have the money and we contact so-and-so, but unless you could be an advocate for it, go to your council people and do things, I think we should keep it.
Okay, that sounds like to be consensus if you're.
Yeah.
good with it. Yeah, all right. Cool. All right, so moving back to bus parking, there was no comments on there other than Larry adding an indent. I don't know. We'll move on. I think we leave that.
Did we talk about, like the overpass, right by the East River? Where I think NYPD was storing like staff personal cars or something, and maybe using that space. Am I remembering correctly? I get that buses are far bigger than like people's personal cars, so I don't know how much room that would make.
I'm not sure where you're referring to.
Oh, it's when you're getting to the ferry. It's on, I want to say 34th and 1st.
34th and 1st.
Sorry, what's the road right after First Avenue?
Yeah, like that service road, FDR
So
service
maybe
road.
I think something, yeah.
Do we have any NYPD parking over there? Not that I'm aware of.
I think it's personal. They were using it for their personal park. Sandy would know about it, and Sandy and I talked about
Oh, I think there's like an enclosed garage. Is that what she's referring
it.
to?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I suspect, I don't think there's enough, even if, I don't know about the volume, not even like the heights, and I don't think there's a lot of space, like it would, I presume that would only open up space for a few buses.
Okay.
Whereas this request is more of like, sort of the scale of bus terminal or,
Oh, wow.
or I don't know, other.
Port Authority.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I think I don't think that would totally solve the problem, but it could be part of the solution. Brendan.
Also, just to interject, not related to any specific budget request, but just for the committee to be aware of, something that the Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee is trying out. And B can attest to this, sorry to put you on the spot, B. That committee is trying out having these budget requests be labeled for level of impact, community support, and feasibility, low, medium, high. So the committee doesn't have to decide on that tonight, but would be something the committee would want to think about to help the Budget and Governmental Affairs Committee when it ranks these requests in the fall. So.
If we say
doesn't have
something
to
like,
decide on tonight. But
But if we said something like we asked for a new timeline, better to reflect our short lifetimes, would be a little different than this, which is sort of like a placeholder, like just even wondering if, because I think the timeline is 40 years or something like that.
Well, I don't think there is a timeline. Really.
They don't
The response is just saying further studies required, so, yeah, good, good.
So this is a perfect example of one where like, I like what the budget the committee's doing, but I think we need to also add what I call the advocacy factor, like is our keeping this in the budget going to actually change reality or not, right? And this one, I think would have a low score for advocacy factor, like if CB6 saying yes or no to this, actually change like the real world conditions in our medium term future. I mean, I think it's hugely important, but for where something like the curb cuts, I would argue that the advocacy factor is incredibly high. We can actually make material changes by keeping it in there.
yeah, so that low, medium, high, that's not so much in terms of removing requests, but just determining where to rank.
Placement.
Yeah, yeah, since the budget committee has to rank these.
So is your suggestion that we would leave it and lower the ranking, or you're suggesting potentially removing it?
Well, I'm more suggesting, yeah, like grading it, it's up to me, I'd add a fourth dimension to impact community support and feasibility, but other than that, yeah, like probably lower how we rank it based on that.
What if we could, I don't even know how the nomenclature, could we say something like urgent requests which are outstanding?
No. But I don't think there's any mechanism for them. But I hear your concern. All right, let's move on to the subway.
So we're keeping that?
Yes, although we will probably discuss the ranking as we get that into that.
Even Comic Sans font.
Are you in objection to keeping it?
No, I don't care. I just was trying to.
Got it.
I'm just getting caught up.
Okay, next one, this is.
Walkway counters.
Walkway counters. Yeah, so this would be asking for walkway counters to use as a data point as we look at other improvements, street improvements within the district. There were no comments. Does anybody have anything they want to raise?
And would these be people that do like the little clicking, or?
I think it
is
was an ask for some sort of like person, like, the collection device.
Okay.
There was a pilot that I was aware of that DOT was using in Union Square for a collection of pedestrian data, and not seen anything since then that it expanded further. So there is technology that's being utilized by DOT for this. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's move on. Track enforcement officers. Okay, so now we got some stuff. Mary, would you like to speak to this?
Sure, I think having more traffic enforcement people would address a lot of the noise pollution, and there is research behind that because it was part of my application to join the community board. And it's not just through NYPD, because I think they fall under NYPD, right?
Yes.
There's also like the traffic safety managers or something. And it would be a nice way to just like, give more jobs to people. What I noticed though, and I know this has been in the community board newsletter, because it's like a flyer saying, hey, we're hiring, come be a traffic enforcement person, but the pay is nothing. And I think in the newsletter, the flyer has like an hourly rate, which is close to minimum wage. And when I looked this up earlier for like salary, it was the highest pay for this role was like 48,000 a year. Like, what is that? So I think that's part of why the agency is struggling to hire more people, because they're not paying them a livable wage for the city. And so, yes, we need more. Please bring more traffic enforcement folks, whether it's through NYPD or just the neighborhood or community, but also pay them a livable wage. And it's, when you look at the people controlling traffic, they're almost all Black and brown people and many immigrants. And I feel like that is connected to like the low pay too. And it's such a serious equity issue in this city. So, yeah, those are my two things. Bring more and pay them well.
Or perhaps make it even not a necessarily full-time. Like, I would love to go out once a week and
I thought about doing it too.
There is the auxiliary police program, if you would be interested in that. But I don't think that quite is what you're interested in.
auxiliary traffic officer.
Yeah, so I think traffic enforcement, it works the best is automatic because the rule breaking is just, it's not even it's like in the hundreds of thousands. It's so rampant. But I think where we do need boots on the ground is the license plates that are being covered. And then you can't automatically, enforce them. So I don't know if it's possible to specifically target the traffic enforcement to the scofflaw license plate covers is one thing. And then second thing is I think the people that you're talking about, I don't know if they're traffic enforcement. They seem to just be trying to get the traffic through as fast as they
But they
can.
stop them as the lights like turning to make sure they don't block the intersection.
Right, but I don't think they ever like enforce anything, you know what I mean? I think they just like directing, they're trying to get the traffic through as quickly as possible.
My understanding is they have some level of authority to issue non-moving violation citations. That said, I don't think they very often do that. But I have seen instances where they will have multiple agents at an intersection and ticket vehicles that are blocking the box.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that, but there's a whole slew of thousands of police officers, or not really officers, like under the police. Their whole job is, let's stop the pedestrians and get the cars through as fast as possible. That's their whole
I
thing.
think that is, you're correct, that it's everyone's directive and it's not about.
That's their whole thing, but I think if we direct traffic enforcement towards the illicit license plates, then we can let the automatic enforcement take over.
B. You're muted.
Muted.
Okay, so I have a comment to make. You really can't say just increase their pay because you have a classification system within the city that classifies their positions. So if you're looking to enhance what their income is, you have to really look at the classification of these jobs in relation to other jobs in the city. That's a different looking and seeing as opposed to increase the pay, because you're gonna get that same answer, that it's classified at a certain level.
So we would, I know this isn't connected to the budget, so we would advocate for a higher classification for their positions.
To examine the classification of their positions to make hiring and, stability more. So you're assuming a higher classification will bring some stability and hiring and enhance their core.
I think that sounds like a reasonable addition to add here. We don't have to figure out the wording right now. We can do that async. But would that be?
Yeah, I think I would struggle with the wording, so B might be better at that part. B, I see you smiling.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I lived with classification in the federal government. You can't do a thing without classifying positions.
Okay.
So we come with language.
Yeah, okay, we'll connect the dots on that.
So I feel like lifeguards right now are getting paid more than the traffic enforcement folks because the city was having such a hard time getting more lifeguards.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. As a former
So I
lifeguard.
wonder what they did. I wonder if the classification for lifeguards got changed or something.
I don't know.
Or they're like contract employees versus, sorry, I know this is getting like all HRE.
Yeah, but no, I think it's worth making some changes to that regarding salaries. I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wondering if this implies that there's a carve out from what they would otherwise get paid doing similar work if they were part of NYPD or.
Okay, we will follow back up on making some amendments to that. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, traffic studies in the tunnel area. So remember, it seemed like your comments were mostly just around ranking on this and prioritizing this. Anything else you want to add? The tunnel.
Oh, the neighborhood traffic study, because one of my
yes.
comments was like more further study is needed. I don't know what agency they're referring to, like, is that us or is that like another city agency?
I think the answer to Gaby Kimias on this is they would need, like, we would want to keep this on here so that they would have the funding to conduct that study.
Okay,
That would, yes, that would be my reading as well.
okay. Because Colleen had mentioned the neighborhood traffic study when I brought this up last month.
I mean, we could put that on there, it's like in the blurb that a neighborhood traffic study may be appropriate. Brooke.
Oh, I could just add that, the Lincoln Tunnel, that 92% of people that come through Lincoln Tunnel come by bus. And with congestion price, and so they have their own, the bus has its own lane coming through the Lincoln Tunnel. Now, if you look at the Midtown Tunnel, the bus does not have its own lane, but there's so many buses through, and now with congestion pricing, it would be good to study the actual Midtown Tunnel itself, not just like the entrance area, and see, can we transform the Midtown Tunnel into more of a public transit thoroughfare? I think this is almost like a once in a lifetime opportunity to transform the Midtown Tunnel. So I would just advocate to change the wording, the entrance area and the Midtown Tunnel itself.
All of it, yeah, because
Yeah.
even I was also surprised that it's just entrance area, because the exit area is also a disaster. And it was also expanding it from, I think it stopped at 38th Street, but saying to extend it to 41st
Yeah,
and
there's all
include
those
all of the
spurs, yeah.
street.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Brock, sounds like you might want to rewrite the blurb.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
All right, thank you.
It's like, hey, people, it's gotten very
Yeah,
bad.
got it, okay, yes, got it. Okay, great, let's move on to the next one. Oh, sorry, yeah, I put it twice, I guess I wasn't paying enough attention after saying this. Okay, yes, and this is the last one, more paving personnel to repair roads. So Mirror Masks, is this a recurring issue? Honestly, I haven't seen that as a recurring issue either. Oh, recruiting, sorry. Is recruiting an issue here? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's more of a, I don't know. I have no idea, actually. Does anybody know? Is there a problem of recruiting DOT road repair personnel? I don't.
Am I being asked?
If you know.
It seems like in my experiences, the big issues are, first of all, DOT agreeing to repair the roads. Sometimes we get a number of constituent requests saying, my road's in bad shape. Why hasn't this been repaired yet? And then the other thing is, this street was milled, why hasn't it been repaved yet? Or why haven't the lanes been striped yet? Which, like Colleen, if she's still on, might be able to speak to this, but there can be a variety of reasons for that happening. Sometimes the weather, I don't know how much of that is staffing, but weather I know has factored in before in those sorts of situations.
So in terms of the street repairs, I actually feel I have raised a number of 301 requests for potholes, and they're generally addressed pretty quickly, impressively quickly. So as far as my perspective, I don't think street repairs, other than perhaps complete repavings, I have not seen that as a really robust issue either. I had dropped in the document immediately before the meeting to propose that we reword this to ask instead of talking about road repairs, to phrase this as for street markings, lane markings. Which Brendan, you brought up, we could also potentially, I didn't factor in the milling issue, which is an issue. I don't know if funding though is the appropriate problem for either of those.
Yeah.
Is the problem, I suppose.
Yeah, like sometimes the issue is the weather, sometimes, like, we got some complaints last year about like a street being milled and then it doesn't get repaved for a number of weeks. Well, there was a stretch last year, if I remember correctly, where it rained like every Saturday. And sometimes rained in the middle of the week.
So there, in 2023, there was a bill passed in the city council to, cap the time between the milling and the paving, to 2 weeks. And so I'm barring extraordinary circumstances, I'm sure. So given that there's already like another, body involved in seeing this through to completion and already a lot of advocacy on behalf of this. I don't know if I would necessarily remove it, but I would certainly give this the lowest of our priorities, given that scenario.
That only pertained to milling and repaving, not markings.
All street resurfacing work, which I assume is remarking as well.
Yeah, probably would assume that. Okay, interesting. I wouldn't hate to remove this personally. I don't know if anybody, I also don't want to send like the wrong. I'm probably not the right person to advocate for that, but in that I don't want to appear not concerning to more regular users of the roadways. But I don't see this as a big problem. I don't know if anybody else in the committee does. B, I see your hand up, thank you.
Yeah, so there was a couple of presentations by Colleen, and I don't know if Brendan remembers over the years, that it's the number of crews that they have that can do the repaving, the remarking. The marking of the streets is really important. And Colleen had said, well, they have a schedule and they follow their schedule. So I don't know if it's a money factor or what they consider their priorities and whether the priorities match. But I could support taking this off as well, because I think you have others that are higher in priority.
I just don't see this as an issue. I feel DOT is actually very on top of intermittent repairs and repaving.
And we have our office that can always follow up and, pester as well.
Yeah, we pester. And Colleen knows that.
Does anybody object to this being removed? Okay, wonderful. I don't think we have to vote, right? No. Okay, that's it for this. Does anybody have anything else that they want to add to this that's not already there? You can also think about it. It doesn't necessarily have to be right now. I actually had one thing to bring up on that topic. Being cognizant of the time. Barack and I have been having some discussions with bids on busways. And one of the things that keeps coming up as these busways are talked about with the bids are that 14th Street is a ghost town and that it's sort of a missed opportunity to rethink the space in the absence of other traffic. I think this might be a useful place to address that, and something I hadn't really thought about, but I think is a legitimate concern, which is that basically what these bids are saying is we implemented the busway on 14th Street, the traffic went away, but the road remains the same. And it's quiet, which is great, but like nothing fills that space. And I think a good example of what could be useful is what you see like in front of the Union Square Park on 14th Street, where there's like a mural painted on the ground and like much extended curb space. That just makes it activated. Street activation is how it was phrased with the bids. I think part of that is that the bids do that work and don't know how far the bid extends. But did you have something to raise?
Yeah, it does extend along East 14th Street. I forget whether it's the Second or the First Avenue.
Okay.
The one thing I will say though, in terms of Union Square, is remember for our own purposes, that we only go up to we only go up to Irving Place, so
Mhm.
anything in Union Square itself, that's community board 5.
I think this might be an appropriate place to ask for funding for street activation and then I come up with proper verbiage on 14th Street, in our section of 14th Street. So basically it would be Irving to, well, I guess the busway really only extends to First. And then it becomes more mixed, east of First. Any thoughts, comments?
I think it's a fantastic idea. The bids was, really pushing hard on that, benches, trees, planters. And if we had a budget, it's not that much money. It's something that could have a real positive impact.
I think also a lot of the reason why that didn't happen was because of the pandemic, and the busway basically kind of was implemented, and then like the pandemic came and like the busway was sort of the least of anybody's concerns. So it just sort of like was implemented, but like not really like improved. But so yeah, I think this would be a good potential addition.
Pride months, they could do it rainbow colors.
Yeah.
The whole street. I'm wondering if we could piggyback, maybe perhaps on the same line item, use this as an opportunity to call for a study to pedestrianize a portion of Irving Place.
Interesting.
Take them
Yes.
for grabs.
I mean, I like that, but I just don't know. Is this the right place for that? I don't know.
I mean,
I don't think it's the right place to add that. I think as a resolution, the board could do this, but I wouldn't do that as part of the budget. And I wouldn't do your street activation as part of the budget. I think we can take a position as transportation as the board that we'd like to see this.
Sure. But what do we need the budget? I think there's a lot of capital that would be required for.
But you don't know, because you need to study it first. And figure out what you need and who pays for what.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was more thinking an expense as an expense item to study. Pedestrianization of the street, or like a suitable street in the area, but perhaps that's not the right, barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have talked about a resolution. It's sort of fallen off the wayside. We should work on getting that. Okay. Yeah. I still support it. Yeah. Okay, so you think the same thing with the activation, that like perhaps that's a better place as a resolution around that?
Yeah, I think so, because you could use it with your council people. You could really take a pretty active position.
Can we do both? Would we want to do both?
I wouldn't do both because I think the budgets, unfortunately, I think these budget requests are very bureaucratic. And you see the type of responses that you get to it.
Right.
So I'm more proactive outside of the budget of using your political will.
To your point, perhaps it might make sense as a budget request if and when it's not implemented as a result of a resolution.
As a follow-up action.
Yeah, right, and not that the order is wrong and to put it at the budget before we have a resolution. Yeah, which I think makes a lot of sense. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? Let's try to get us out of here very shortly. Okay, let's move on then to the chair's report. I have a very quick report. We had a walkthrough with DOT, DDC, a bunch of other abbreviations, alphabet soups of agencies, where we were at 34th Street and the FDR Service Road.
23rd Street.
Thank you, sorry, 23rd Street and the FDR Service Road. Where we're taking a look at that intersection, as Colleen gave an update in her report. They took some notes and some changes. We had suggested a couple things, which in changing the signal times and considering a barn stance. It seems like their response is that they don't believe they can do that. It seems there's based generally a determination that there's sort of a lack of possible options to solve for there. I will note one thing that came up was that there is still ongoing work, construction in that area with the parallel conveyance ECSR project.
ESCR.
ESCR project.
Eastside Coastal Resiliency.
I don't know why I get that. I don't like that. Get that order correct.
It's a lot of alphabets.
Yeah, this is all alphabet too. So there is still some change. The state of the intersection is not its future permanent state. It will get better at the conclusion of that project, but seemed effectively the main takeaways from DOT was that it's sort of is there what it is. One last thing to add is the wood thing at that intersection that sort of obstructs the crosswalk. Everybody on site identified that it does not belong to them. And so we're trying to liaise with sanitation and or others to remove. Brendan, do you have anything else to say on that?
Nothing else to say on that specifically.
Okay, anything else to say that whole thing, if you would like?
The whole 23rd and FDR.
Yeah.
I think he gave a pretty good summary. I think, like based on the walkthrough, there are certain incremental improvements that are possible. Another possible incremental improvement is on the west side of the intersection, crossing East 23rd Street at the FDR Drive. That's an extremely short signal for pedestrians. So one improvement that's possible, for example, is that median separating the main part of East 23rd Street and the service road. I suggested that median get extended so that there's sort of a little waiting area for pedestrians. People seemed receptive to that, albeit at the end of the project over there. So, that's an incremental improvement, not transformative, like I think we had hoped, but incremental improvements, I guess, are better than none at all.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for us to pass a resolution asking for a broader redesign of that intersection with some suggestions, perhaps. I can take a stab at some of that over the course of the summer. Brett, do you?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna reemphasize what you said. I think the project's ongoing for at least another year, and the DOT has a policy that they're not going to change anything when there's ongoing construction projects. So almost nothing's gonna get done for the next year for sure. And we should revisit this issue again.
Yep. Okay, and then something else I was gonna add. We just as an FYI, we had a bus stop change on 42nd Street by, what was the name of the operator? We could follow up by email afterwards, but there was some service reduction from an intercity bus at a bus stop on 42nd Street between 1st and 2nd that we didn't feel that we needed to bring up to comment on. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any other old or new business they would like to
Sorry. I know, it's late. We still want the First Avenue tunnel bike lane.
That was what I was failing to think of.
And, we got sent back to committee, and so Colleen, who's long gone, I see, she may come back to us with the design in July, so, maybe it's possible that we can meet again. And I asked Mitchell to come too, since he objected to it. So he could come and evaluate too, and how to give it more strength. And then maybe we can present it to the executive committee during the summer, because it is somewhat of a time sensitive issue.
Yeah, so there's a process. So we don't normally meet in July and August. We could meet if we elected to. I intend to call a meeting if DOT comes back to us with designs. We have also shared with DOT that we would like them to come to us with designs, and that we didn't get the full board didn't approve the resolution, and we asked that they come back with designs in July or sooner, that we believe we'd be able to get it through. We can take, even though we won't have full board meeting in July, we can pass a resolution here and communicate a letter as a result of that the transportation committee has met and approved it, to show our support for the project in a sort of interim way. I don't think anybody here objects to that, but, to us meeting in July, but, we'll follow up if, when and if it's fully, if it comes to fruition. But let me know if you hate that idea.
And there's an executive committee that meets after that we could get a vote in there, although it's not the same as full board.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, so how it works according to the bylaws is, let me actually pull up the exact quote, so that way I'm not paraphrasing. If there is a time-sensitive matter, that requires a resolution during the months of July or August. Okay, this is the exact quote. In July and August, and only when action must be taken, any committee may, after consultation with the board chair, approve a resolution of the committee and communicate such a resolution to an external entity, communicating that the resolution will be communicated for informational purposes only, is not a recommendation or position of the board, and has not received approval of the board and is not binding upon the board. This was talked about with Sandy as well, just so that she's in the loop, because this needs to happen in consultation with the board chair. And Sandy suggested that, assuming DOT comes with designs, that this be passed by transportation, and then the executive could be.
Got it. But we don't have to meet as an executive committee?
You're saying?
Does it require a meeting of the executive committee? No.
The bylaws don't state that.
Yeah.
But the bylaws do state in consultation with the board chair, so.
Got it.
The board chair suggested that it also go before just to make sure that a critical mass of eyes are on the resolution in the absence of a summer full board meeting.
Got it, okay. So yes, be on the lookout for hopefully us setting up a July meeting. That is all. Does anyone have any other old or new business? All right, seeing no old or new business, would anybody like us to adjourn? Do I need to adjourn? All right, then meeting is adjourned at 9:39 PM.